Hi everyone, this is Matthew Janda for CardRunners, and I'm here with Button vs. Blind Play video number 4, and this is going to be Big Blind vs. Button Play continued. So in the next couple videos following this one, I am going to write out what I would do with my entire range, but this is the last video for a while where we're going to just generate a bunch of flops. We're going to talk about what looks like the really close decisions, what looks like the really easy ones, so we continue to build on that framework of whether or not we bet, whether or not we check, and then once we have that general idea down, then, as I said, in the next few videos, I'll actually be writing out what I would do with every single hand. All right, so flop number 2, we get 3 of spades, 6 of spades, 4 of clubs, and again, this is random. I know it's similar to the last flop in the last video. And in all of these hand examples, we're once again assuming that we cold called a button open in the big blind, then we checked on the flop, and then the button bet, and we want to know what to do. All right, so same deal as before. You have to understand that if you get a 6 high flop in the big blind, you just got unlucky with your overall range to get this flop. It's no different than getting a bad turn or river card for your specific hand. Here we just got a bad flop for our range. So it doesn't mean we did anything wrong pre-flop to kind of miss this flop. It's just not common the board's going to be 6 high. It happens sometimes, and I randomly generated the flop, and we got this one here, but it's just not that common. So the fact that position is so valuable here and we have a weak range and we just don't have that many pairs doesn't mean we did anything wrong. We just got an unlucky flop. All right, so let's continue with this flop. So what are some easy check raises here? And first off, we're going to do the value check raises. So what are some easy value check raises? Pause if you want. But I would just say any really strong hand. This isn't a board where you want to give free cards. So if you have a set, a straight, or a 2 pair, I would usually check raise here. Now, we probably 3-bet a lot of the hands that can make 2 pairs and can make straights. Like we probably 3-bet a lot of the 5-7, 6-4 suited, 4-3 suited stuff. It depends really on what you do overall with your range. But if you do have those hands here, I would likely go ahead and go for the check raise. Very hard to slow play here. So what are some easy-ish check calls? So what are some hands that you feel pretty comfortable check calling with? I would just say most pairs, including most 6x, 4x, and 3x hands, also call some like ace-9, ace-ace high card hands with runner-runner flush draws and some 5x hands. So you just kind of want a mix of everything when you're check calling. You want some draws, some, high overcards, some random pairs, pretty much the stuff that, won't retain its equity all that well if we check raise it, but are still reasonably strong enough hands that we want to check call. So this one should be pretty easy. And then what are some good check raise bluffs? And I would say king 8, 8-7 of clubs, 9-8 of clubs, some 7x and some 5x hands. So let's go one hand at a time. Why do I think it's reasonable to check raise bluff king of spades, 8 of clubs? Well, the first thing I would say is it's a hand that has some pretty robust equity. It has the runner-runner flush draw with the king high. So the king of spades can, make the second nut flush or even the nut flush if the turn of the river is the ace of spades. So that's pretty good. And the other reason why I like check raising it too is we might be able to make some hands that dominate us fold. Like I think especially in practice, very often you're going to check on this flop. Your opponent's going to bet the flop with king 9, king 10, maybe even king jack. And then when you check raise it, you make him fold. He'll probably bet the flop with ace 8 more than he should. And when you check raise king 8, you'll make him fold. So you can make some hands that dominate you fold. And then the other thing too is like just at the end of the day, turning a pair of kings or a pair of 8s is good. So one thing that's important to keep in mind as you get better is when you're first learning how to play, you tend to really want to play hands that are easy to play. You're not able to do that as you get better and you play against better opponents. So yeah, we're going to sometimes check raise with king 8 here. We'll turn an 8 and our opponent will have pocket 9s. Or we'll turn a king and our opponent will have, king queen or king 6. And that sucks and it's hard to play that hand and you usually end up feeling poorly no matter what you do if that happens, right? Like if you turn a king and your opponent has 2 pair, if you end up putting a lot of money in and losing, you feel bad. If you end up folding top pair, you feel bad. So it's important not to be too results oriented. Understanding you'll sometimes get in tough spots when you check raise a hand like king 8 here. But at the end of the day, it can make the second nut flush and it can turn some pretty good pairs. So I think it's a reasonable hand to check raise here. 8-7 of clubs. This one everyone should be really familiar with. It's a gut shot and then it also has 3 to a flush. 9-8 of clubs is pretty close to 3 to a flush, 3 to a straight. And then 7x and 5x hands are either gut shots or open in straight draws. So the rest should be, pretty comfortable. The king 8 off is probably a little bit more difficult. And then when we do go over every single hand in our range, that's where we'll focus on making sure we're having the proper amount of check raise bluffs. So hopefully everyone is pretty comfortable with this.